Welcome to Man About Danville with Logan H. Gurman, a podcast for Danville, Kentucky and beyond. Conversations with friends, and you get to listen. Brought to you by the Logan Company, a commercial and residential real estate brokerage for Danville and Central Kentucky. 80% Danville-centric, 20% eccentric.
Good morning, Danville, Kentucky. Welcome to Man About Danville. You are listening to the most influential and fastest growing podcast for Danville, Boyle County, and the entire Central Kentucky region. Thank you very much for joining me. Whether you are in your car, on a commute, on a road trip, on vacation, at work, by the pool, on the ski slope, at the gym, on a run, mowing your yard, raking leaves, shoveling snow, whatever you're doing, I appreciate you taking time out of your day to listen to the podcast. I have been on my winter hiatus. I took off December and January. My last episode was the Black Friday special, so if you haven't listened since then, I appreciate your patience. And for all the new listeners who've joined and listened since that time, I appreciate it. I didn't put out any new content since Black Friday, but I know people have been downloading the back catalog, so thanks so much for taking the time to check it out. I consider it a real honor and privilege that you choose to spend part of your day with me. I sincerely appreciate it. By the way, special shout out to the Man About Danville Listener of the Week, Shelly B. I appreciate your comments and encouragement. So, Shelly B, thanks for listening. Actually, no prize for being the Listener of the Week. It's just, just wanted to say thanks. So, thanks for listening. So, has anything been going on in town this week? Huh? Anything? Anything at all? The guys in the production booth, you got anything? Oh, you may have heard. Danville High School parted ways with their head football coach, Clevenger, last Friday. And Clay's my guest this week. He is kind enough, bold enough, tough enough to be my guest this week. If you've ever been fired or let go for whatever reason, you know it hurts, it stings. And I certainly appreciate Coach Clevenger taking the time to sit down and talk with me because I know you all want to hear what he has to say. By the way, if you enjoy this podcast, I hope you consider sharing it, especially an episode like this. Part of my audience is people right here in Danville. Another part of the audience is people that used to live here. And I think there's probably some folks out there that have heard what's going on and would have a real interest. So if you consider sharing this podcast with them, I'd appreciate that too. So let's get right to it. Here's Coach Clay Clevenger. The idea of this podcast is where I have conversations with friends. I'm not going to pretend that you and I are great friends, but we're at least acquainted. We've run into each other on a couple of occasions. Clay, thank you for being with me today.
I appreciate you having me.
Clay, We're sitting here on a Sunday afternoon. The news broke Friday afternoon, I suppose. That's when I started seeing the tweets and the comments coming through. And you were released from your duties as head football coach on Friday. Clay, you're a Danville native. You and I are close to the same age. When did you went to Danville High School? When did you graduate?
I graduated in 1996.
Okay, so you're significantly younger than I am. Who else was in that class of 96? Was Clay Albright in that class?
No, Clay's a little younger than both of us then.
Okay.
So you're 2 years younger than my brother, Mike Clevenger, who graduated in 88.
Okay. That clears a lot of things up then.
Yep. So the guys you talk about played ball. Walter, I think, and Chris were both sophomores. My brother was a senior on the 87 state championship team. And
where does Tim McDaniel fit?
Tim and Mike. My brother's Mike. They're the same age.
Okay, so they were in that same.
Yep, they're the same age. They actually played together at center as well.
Okay. Well, after you graduated from Danville in 96, where did you go?
I went to Carson Newman College, which is a Division II school in Jefferson City, Alabama, or Tennessee, right outside of Knoxville. About 30 minutes from Pigeon Forge, kind of on East Tennessee, and really good football school down there. We played in the national championship in Division II for 3 to 5 years. I was there and had a great experience, playing down there.
All right, so you played football in college too? Correct. Did you always know you wanted to be a teacher and a coach?
Yeah, it's funny. When I was in high school, Coach Harp actually was my coach, and I would come up with him on the weekends and watch film and break down film, and knew that's what I wanted to do probably since I was 13, 14 years old, and went to school, got my education degree, and as soon as I got done playing college football, got a job opportunity with the University of the Cumberlands. It was Cumberland College at the time, which is in southeastern Kentucky, and so I went there and actually coached at the collegiate level for 5 years. Came back to Central Kentucky, was at Lincoln County for a year as an assistant, and then went to Henderson County in Western Kentucky as a head coach, in 2007. So, it's just something that's kind of been my career path, and was at Henderson, for 6 seasons before coming back to Danville.
All right, let me back up a moment and explain this for my listeners. I've got you may not know this, but I'm the biggest podcast in Danville,
right?
And I have listeners all over the country. And actually, the kind of part of the idea was to make a podcast about Danville for people from Danville who don't live here anymore.
Right.
So I've got people that listen to North Carolina, Portland, Oregon, all over the Southeast. For people that aren't from Danville and Boyle County, Danville is a town of about 16,000 people in a county of about 25 or 30,000. It's a small town, small county. We've got 2 separate independent school districts. We've got the Danville City Schools, Danville Independent School District, which is actually older than the Boyle County District. I'm a Boyle County guy. I graduated from Boyle County in 89. My kids are out there. My dad, however, graduated from Danville back in, I think, 61. Anyway, so I've got some history with both. And I think one of the great things about having 2 school districts in this little county is the iron sharpens iron. They both make each other. The competitiveness really helps both of them. But you can't go in this county and have somebody that's not on one side or the other or loyal to one over the other. Danville has some of the most loyal alumni in the business. So when did you come back to Danville? And you, I came back to Danville about 15 years ago to raise my family. It's a great place to raise kids. So when did you come back to Danville?
2013 is when I took over the head football coaching, job, and it was, probably about this time, early February. I don't know exactly the hire date, but it was end of January, early February, and we were living. My wife Kate is a Boyle County graduate.
Okay,
she graduated probably in '99. And then my father-in-law, Alec Russell, is a longtime business owner here in Danville. Used to own Green Line, John Deere.
Aha, yes.
So we've got a lot of roots here, as well. My mom was a longtime finance director for the Danville schools for 20-plus years.
So is John Russell your brother-in-law then?
John Russell's my brother-in-law.
Oh, man, it's a small town.
It's a small town
here.
That's right. And so, obviously Kate and I had been married for about a year and a half. I kind of got married a little later in life.
It took me a while to find somebody too.
Yeah, and I found her. It took me a long time to make her mine. So she held off as long as possible. But we had at the time the Danville job came open. Our son Rush was about a year and a half old, and she was probably 3 or 4 months pregnant with Bo. So now I've got a 9 and a 7-year-old now. So Bo was
2 boys.
2 boys. So Bo was actually born. We were living in Danville. But anyway, once the opportunity to try to come back home, raise our kids in Danville and raise our kids around their grandparents and around their cousins, and it was just and the fact that Danville's it's a premier job in the state of Kentucky. It's a good job. It's got a lot of football tradition, and if you're going to be in this business, those are the type of gigs and the type of job that you want to be involved in.
So the news that was released on Friday was that you had been released from your position as head football coach at Danville. I am personally bummed out for you. I think it's a loss for the Danville Independent School District, and I say that even as a Boyle County fan. From my point of view, from my perspective, you've been a wonderful asset to Boyle County. You typify a small town football coach, and we don't have a lot of relationship between the two of us. But I've seen you talk at Rotary meetings, and I've seen what you've done for the program, and I think it's been great. And I have seen a small army of Danville alumni who have come out in your support. A lot of people have been interested in your thoughts on being released. We are sitting here a couple of days after you've been released. This has got to be a very raw wound for you today, and I really appreciate you coming here and talking with me about it. But I think people want to hear what you have to say. What would you like to say to your current players, your former players, your friends, the alumni of the school? Do you have any parting words for them?
Well, first of all, I've known I've wanted to be a coach for a long time. And, my reasons for coaching is that I think that the game of football parallels the game of life like no other sport. And I know other people, people that like other sports can say the same. But my thing is football. You get knocked down, you got to get back up. It's hard. It's tough. I think it builds character. And so those are a lot of the reasons why I love the game. And that's the reasons why I love to coach, because I feel like, especially today, in today's world, it teaches values that kids may lack. And it teaches those intangibles that, in my opinion, are going to help lead to success and allow young men to prosper, because of those intangibles that the game teaches. So being with that said, my goal in coaching is always to produce better men, is to use the platform of football to teach kids about the game of life, and to hopefully be a good steward of the game, and to be a good role model. It's something that my wife and I are very intentional on, having kids to our house and having kids around our family, because not all the kids that we coach come from two-parent households, and see what the form of husband and wife look like, and see how a dad can interact with his kids and kiss them and love them and do those types of things. And so that's something that we're very intentional about portraying. And so coming back to Danville, having played here, having had lots of friends, it was important to me to try to help our young men in the Danville football program break through some barriers, break through some things that might be holding them back, in order to go out and experience things in life that we want them to be successful at. And whether that's using the game of football to get into college, whether that's using the game of football to get values, to go out and be a productive citizen, whatever that might be, that's the goal. And so we feel like we've done that. We feel like, and I'll be honest with you, over the last couple of years, as relations have been a little bit rocky, maybe with me and some of the administrators, the goal was always with the kids and on the kids, and fighting for them and self-advocating for them, because a lot of the guys that I coach at Danville, they don't have a lot of folks advocating for them. And so that's a mission. And so when you get people that are on a mission and they're really, that makes people uncomfortable.
I want to back up. Since 2013, Danville won a state championship. What year was that?
We played for the state championship and lost in 2016. We won the state championship undefeated 2017. And also in 2017, Demarie Van Cleve was the Mr. Football, which was the first and only Mr. Football that we've had, that's come through our football program.
And is he still in school at Wofford?
He's still at Wofford. They're actually playing this spring. A lot of our guys that are in college and the small colleges are playing their football seasons in the spring. So I talked to him yesterday. He texted me, and I think they're starting to play here in a couple of weeks.
And you've got a pretty good record of helping some kids get into college, get scholarships to play football that might not be going to college if it weren't for football. Oh, definitely.
I think, this year, as of last year, I think 32 kids have gone on to play. Not all of them has stuck, but we've had a lot of kids that have stuck. I think we've got 14 or 15 kids right now playing college football. I think we'll have probably another 3 or 4 this year that signed to move on and play from this year's team. So, hopefully 35, 36 that have had the opportunity. Before I had come back, it had been a long time since we had a kid from Danville that had gone to college to play football and had actually graduated through that college program. It had been since, maybe 2010 since a kid from Danville had done that. And so, or maybe even 2008. Anyway, we've had a kid in every single graduating class since I've been here that's gone on to college and graduated through that college football program as well. So, those are things that, because college is tough, that's a different thing. You got to prepare the kids for that, and they have to have that stability and that mental toughness, especially that first year, to kind of be able to handle what college throws at them. So, and that's something we started. We always have our seniors over at least once, maybe twice a year to our house and just talk and fellowship with them. But then a couple years ago, because I was seeing a lot of our kids that were coming home after their first semester, They go to college, stay a semester, and they weren't going back. And so then my wife and I, we started hosting a dinner for all of our college players at Christmas time. It's because I wanted them to be around the older guys that were making it, and they could hear, hey, it'll be all right. You go on back. You got to go back to school. And since we've started that for the last couple of years, the rate of kids that are actually making it through that first year has gone up. So, it's been a very intentional process to try and get it. With that said, college football is not the end-all, be-all. And I've got just as many kids that have played that I'm proud of, that the Ray Bradshaw, that's a city policeman, Kyron Warren, who's is in the fire department, that, didn't go to the college route, but are still, doing really good things, in the community and being, great kids outside of what the program hopefully instilled in them.
I see one of the main reasons sports in general and football in particular exist in high school is to help kids who may not have a real interest in high school remain in high school and remain focused on their grades enough that they remain eligible.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of pro-athletic people in school systems that'll it used to be said, Mr. Rowland used to say this all the time when he was the principal and superintendent at Danville schools, our athletics is our number one dropout prevention that we have going in our Danville schools. And then he would go on and say, and football's the number one of that, as far as probably helping kids that they might struggle or might not graduate high school, gives them that team aspect. And that's why I try to send so many kids to give them the opportunity to go to college, because it's the same principle. You go to college, you might not know anybody, but you're a part of a team. You've got that accountability of a team. You've got coaches that are going to check up and hold you accountable and make sure you're getting to class and getting your grades. And so you get these guys plugged into that, and then there's a better chance and a better likelihood of them making it through college. So it goes both ways in that aspect.
In professional football, you draft and trade for players. In college, you recruit. In high school, you're not really supposed to recruit. It's more of a situation you work with the talent you're given. How have you taken the talent from this little town and had so much success with it?
Well, we're title town. I mean, we've just it's kind of a thing that if you play football, if you live here, I mean, whether you go to Boyle County or Danville, if you want to play on that championship caliber team, you play football and at either school. And so it's just that tradition. You've got parents, you've got multi-generations of football players, and it means that much to those kids, just like, Rush. My oldest 9, he plays Little League football in the Danville Youth Football, and he was like, does this mean I don't get to play for Danville? That was probably he cried because of that. And so that's the legacy. That's the part of what makes small town football, like you said, special. And so, you got multi-generation. I've coached guys whose dads I played with. And probably, I haven't thought about it, but probably have had somebody on each team that I went to school with that were friends of mine that have a son that's played for me. And so that means more, and so, it's so to be able to we're in Kentucky. We're very fortunate. We have a very good network of small college football that's played here in Kentucky, and it's that a league with the Campbellsvilles and Cumberlands and Georgetown and Lindsey Wilson, and you got Center College here that plays. And so there's for the number of actually football players we have in the state, high school wise, there's a lot of college opportunities here, and so it's good for our kids.
Have you had much interaction with the youth football programs here and around?
A couple years ago, the Danville school system decided to disassociate with our Danville youth football. Like, they didn't want it anymore under their umbrella, which really left us in a bind to have a spot for our kids to go and play, that were 6th grade or younger. And so I actually personally went out and started a 501c3. So I'm the president of the Danville Youth Football League that I went and created. Stephen Dexter helped me with the legal part of it. Johnson and Palmy helped me with the insurance part of it, and I appreciate those people. But so I run our youth football program from 2nd grade to 5th grade, and then they go to middle school.
Do those teams, Does that team play the Woodlawn team and the Perryville team, or is it something different?
So we're actually we're in our own conference that encompasses Mercer County and Jessamine, and we've had Lincoln County's been in it, Garrett County's been in it. Woodlawn, the Boyle youth football has never been a part of our conference. Okay. So we've played at times, like not exhibition, but we've played, but our grades don't match up as well. So we have a second and third grade team and a fourth and fifth, and they start with third and fourth and fifth and sixth. So the grade levels don't necessarily equal out.
Part of your strategy for developing the Danville football team, I've seen people post on social media that you were driving by players' houses at 6 o'clock in the morning to pick them up to get them into the weight room. That's true?
Oh, yeah.
What else what were some of your other techniques for building the program?
My philosophy with kids is that, kids get a bad rap these days. You always hear people say, well, kids today are they're directly what we as adults make them. And it's no different than it was in 1950 or 1850. It's what's expected of them, and kids will do what's expected of them, good or bad. And so as adults, we're failing kids in a lot of ways because I think we've lowered our expectations in a lot of ways. So with that said, you put your expectations out there. People told me, in Henderson we had a 6 a.m. weight group, and when I came back here, people that I've known, it won't work. Kids won't do it. They won't get up. It's not going to work. They don't want to take showers before school. They don't want to do this. I was like, well, we're going to do it anyway. And so that first year you start and you have 8 or 9 kids, and kids says, well, I don't have a ride. That's the number one. I don't have a ride. All right, I'll pick you up. And then and so then with kids, what you have to do is you got to take away all their excuses because they're going to have it. And so that's another thing of building the program is you take away all their excuses. I don't have a ride. I got you. I don't have shoes. All right, we'll get you those. I don't have that. Okay, we'll take care of that. And they realize they can't make any excuses anymore, and then it's about them. And then it's like, all right, am I going to do it or am I not going to do it? And then what it is that they want to play football, and they want to play football for Danville, so they're going to do what's expected of them. And so then you get them there. Well, then all of a sudden, 2 weeks into these workouts, and they're seeing their body change, and they're getting stronger. I always laugh. I said, man, these girls are going to start looking at you a little different, and my arms get bigger, And so then but that's a real life phenomenon. So in the weight room, they get stronger. Well, what happens when your body changes and you get stronger? Your confidence goes up. And so these kids, and all of a sudden their confidence goes up. Well, when their confidence goes up, they become better athletes. And then they're also stronger. And so the weight room really is the foundation of everything that I've done in any program that we've been at. It's because you teach kids how to fail. Like that's the one thing that we probably fail our kids at the most is we don't let them fail enough. And so in the weight room, man, it's easy to teach them to fail because they don't get that last rep. And they know it. And now all of a sudden it becomes the determination, I'm going to get that last rep next time. And so now, you're just building all those little intangible things, and that's built in the weight room. And so you start off in that first year, you got 10 or 12 kids, 8, 10, 12 as a nucleus. And in the second year, we had 12 or 14. And then the next year, we might have 16. Well, you look at we go 6 and 6 my first year. We go 8 and 4 that second year. By the third year, now we're getting a group of 22, 24 kids in the weight room at 6 o'clock in the morning for 3 months out of the year. And now we're 12 and 2. Now we're going to state championship games. And so there's a correlation there with that. And, even though our last couple of seasons weren't the greatest, I think we weren't able to start this year because of the COVID and everything. But last year, we're averaging 35 to 40 kids at 6 o'clock in the morning, 3 days a week. From January through the time COVID hit, but it would have been through spring break. And the kids, they love it. Like, you can't drive them out when they're 6 a.m.s, and so it's become an expectation of the program, and it's become something that's taken on a life of its own, and the kids really buy into. And you know what? The last few years, I don't have to give near as many rides. They get there.
You have an older player picking somebody up.
They're picking them up, or, mama, and you know what? The parents buy in. and parents go from, man, I can't believe I have to get up and get my kid there, to, well, I'm going walking. I drop them off and I go get my walk in, or, it's just, it became kind of a very positive part of the program, and the kids really, it was a foundation of really how we built our success.
Something I believe, nothing begets success like a little success.
Oh yeah.
When you get that first taste of it, then that's real, and you realize it's possible, then it makes it easier to go back to keep doing the things that brought you that success initially. Clay, tell me about Bait Night and the All-Star Dads program you put together at Danville.
So obviously, Danville School, we have a lot of strong traditions, and Bait Night was something that I had kind of toyed around with in my head, but I hadn't acted on it. And then we went to the Danville board a few years ago, went to put all the everybody to be an admiral. So each school had their own mascot, and so they wanted to make everybody just an admiral, and then have that as the branding and whatnot. And so when they did, there was a sector of the community, African American community, that came out in support that they didn't want Bait to be changed from the Bulldogs. Because,
all right, so for people that don't live here, the middle school for the Danville Independent District is Bait Middle School, named after
John W. Bait.
And John W. Bait, was he the principal or the administrator at Bait High School, which was the black segregated high school before integration happened?
Correct. So that community that had gone to Bait High School, that was still living,
who are still here, still active.
Yeah, they are. They came out kind of in full force and said, no, we want Bait Middle School to stay the Bulldogs, and that happened. And so with that said, John W. Bait is one of the most remarkable stories that Danville has to offer, in my opinion. And so this guy graduated from Berea College in the late 1800s, came to Danville and started a school for African American children. I think he started with 6 or 8 kids in a one-room school back in like 1897. At the time of consolidation, I think in 1965, they were servicing over 600 students, grades K through 12. He was the principal at that time, so 60 plus years as an educator here in Danville to the African American community. It's just a remarkable story. And the Bait alumni, you can go back. Bunny Davis, he played in the minor leagues, but we have guys in our Hall of Fame that played, for the Bait High School. And so with that said, that just meant a lot to me, and the story, I'm a history guy, so the story and knowing that a lot of our kids that played for us at Danville had lineage that goes back to that. So I just, at the time, Dr. Look was the superintendent. I went to him and said, look, I want to go buy some purple and gold jerseys, and I want to have a Bait throwback night. And he was like, okay, if you can get the funding to do it, do it. And so got the funding, and we went and bought purple and gold jerseys, and it was actually the year we won the state championship. So that was the first year we did it. So we're going to play a game, and I brought Mr. Atkins, who's a city commissioner, in, and he actually does a rendition of where he actually impersonates John W. Bait. So I brought him to practice that week, and he spoke to the team about it, and kind of told them a little bit and said, we got a special surprise. So we go out to warm up, and we're in our regular jerseys. We had a purple and gold jersey sitting in the locker room. So we come back in after warm-ups, and I said, all right, put the purple and gold on. And our kids went nuts. And our fans went nuts. Nobody really knew about it. It was a surprise. And so that was a really cool moment. And then it's just kind of taken off. We had the Kentucky State Band here 2 years ago. Mr. Glenn Ball, who's one of our board members, helped to orchestrate that. And they put on quite a show throughout the game and at halftime for our fans. And, it's just a really during Bait Night. And so hopefully that's a tradition that the next coach will continue, because I think it's a cool thing. So, but that's one of the I feel like that's a sector that I don't want that to die. I don't want that legacy. Obviously, the Bait Middle School, the name won't die, but it's just a legacy that I think is important. You talked about All Pro Dads, it's an organization. I love to read. I don't read as much now that I'm a dad, but early in my career, I love to read. I love to read leadership books, and Tony Dungy obviously has been a great football coach, but he's a great leader as well. And so reading some of his books, he talked about this program he had started, and it's All Pro Dads. And so even in Henderson, I wanted to start, and I just never did take that initiative. And then finally coming back here, and my son Rush was getting ready to start into kindergarten, and I was like, I'm doing it. And so went to Robin Kelly at the time, who was the principal at Gene Rogers, and said, look, I'll take care of the cost. I'll buy the donuts. But we would do this once a month, we encourage dads to come in, dads, uncles, just a male figure to come in and have breakfast before school. And, we have there's a curriculum that we kind of talk about. We give the dads a word, and they talk about it with their son or daughter. And that took off, after we had done it a couple times and put it out on Facebook, then next thing I know, Hogshead's doing it and Tolliver's doing it. And so last year before COVID hit, we got to where I still had a son at both schools now that we've consolidated, but I had one at Hogshead and Tolliver, and we were really getting great turnouts for that. And so those are two things, because I think that's important, is to get parents and stakeholders involved in their kids' educational journey and to help advocate for their kids' educational deal, and especially get that male role model involved. It doesn't always have to be the dad, but just to have that male role model to say, hey, you need to get your grades up, or you need to act right at school, or, you need to, or a great job even. That's the best thing we did at All Pro Dads is that we would allow the dad, most of the time we try to allow the dad to stand up and say, brag on their son or daughter or niece or nephew or grandson. 10 seconds, what are they doing right? Oh, he's really doing great with his son or with his younger brother, or he's really working hard on his reading, or she's really and to see those kids' faces light up when that person bragged about them, like those are the little things that you kind of cherish and remember.
Anything else you want to cover?
I think speaking truth to power. I think I think people got to be willing to stand up. I think a lot of times people don't feel like they have a voice. That's not the case, especially if you're advocating for kids. Accountability, I think, holding people accountable, I don't think there's anything wrong with it, and so if that gets you fired or if that gets you in trouble, so be it. But if you're doing it for the right reason, sometimes that's what happens, and it's not always fun or fair, but it's life. And so, it's like I tell our kids, my favorite saying is play the next play. Like, you can't do anything about the last play. Whether it's a touchdown and you just made a highlight reel, but if you're not careful, you get knocked on your butt the next one. Or, if you did something bad, you can't dwell on it. You got to play the next play and move forward. And, that's what our kid want. You want our young adults to know. And life sometimes throws you a lemon. You got to try to make lemonade out of it. And, and don't get too high and don't get too low. Just sit there and be a good person and work through it, and good things will typically happen.
So what's next for you, Clay?
I don't know. I probably had 12 or 14 job offers. Seriously. I mean, I'm not trying to brag. I'm just saying.
I'm betting you're getting phone calls.
Yeah. I mean, and a lot of them are, assistant spots, and that's fine. I'm not too big to go and be an assistant somewhere. And there's a couple of.
Would you be an assistant at Boyle County?
You never know. I mean, you got to pay the bills. I mean, there's not a lot. It's not lucrative in high school coaching, but to take a part of your livelihood away as far from financially, you got to pay your bills. So nothing's out of the question. There's good programs that I think I could have a shot at getting the job. It's just that, you pick up your family. Do you pick them up and move them 2 hours away now from what you've kind of got your claws sunk into, or do you stick around and go to work other places? And so that's something that my wife and I, we're probably not as into the Word of God as we need to be, but we try to be. And I think we just got to kind of sit back and just kind of see how everything plays out. And hopefully there'll be some doors open that we can take advantage of.
You're in your mid-40s. You've won a state championship at one of the most prestigious football gigs in the state. I'm guessing you're going to have the pick of opportunities to do whatever suits you and your family. And I wish you all the best going forward. I was kind of staggered to hear the news on Friday, and after talking to you in depth, I'm even more staggered. But I don't have a dog in the fight. Do you have any comments or words that you want to leave with your players that are going to be moving forward on the team without you?
I think they know how I feel. I mean, that's something that they can feel that daily. I think that's one of the reasons why we've had success is that the kids, the old saying that people, they got to know how you feel about them. But if you love, they know we love them. They know it. They know it deep down. And, our actions, there's a lot of people that say that, but our actions, I think, as a program and as a coach and my staff, I've got a great staff of guys that all have bought into that family type and take these kids in and do a lot for them. There's the thing about it is that I'm not really a self-promoter. It's always about the kids. And so there's sometimes, you say, man, I don't know if we're making as much a difference, especially like I said, over the last couple of years. But then now that this has happened, it's been an explosion of Coach, thanks, Coach. I mean, for everything we've seen on Facebook, I've gotten probably 2 times more than that in text messages and messages on the side. And that's refreshing. Like we don't do this for money. It's about the love of the game and the love of the kids. And so to know that there's that single parent kid that, if it wasn't for you, he wasn't going to graduate high school, or he's a better man now. And, not to just have 1 or 2, but to have 40 of those conversations over the last couple of days, that means that you've done something right. And I think that's the part that kind of gets in your craw a little bit, is that in education, we're supposed to be about the kids. And unfortunately, egos and whatever, it doesn't become about the kids. It becomes about whose feelings get hurt for this or being petty, as the kids would say, instead of getting in a room, hashing out your differences and moving on for the betterment of whether the organization or whatever it is. I mean, that's just simple leadership, but unfortunately it's lacking at times.
Well, when I started the idea of this podcast, it was to talk to folks around town about what was going on, and you and Coach Smith previously and have come and for instance, talked to the Rotary Club about your program. And I thought, when COVID blows over and at the end of the summer, I'll get these coaches on and we'll talk about what they've got coming up before the season. And this was not the conversation. I'd gotten your phone number way back when, and then COVID hit and football season got rearranged, and I didn't get around to it. I'm sorry that I'm just now getting around to it as you're on the way out the door. But Clay, I think our community is suffering a loss in seeing you go. I think you're leaving the program is a loss for the program. I think it's a loss for Danville High School. I think it's a loss for our community. And I'm sorry that we're having the conversation under these circumstances. Anything else you want to get off your chest?
No, look, Danville, if I was going to be a high school football coach, which I started out thinking college and whatnot, and you just kind of realize what that business is about. And, and so when I decided I wanted to be a high school football coach, my dream job was Danville. Like that was the end all be all. And so for the last 8 years, I've been able to live out that dream. And that there's a lot of people that don't get to do that in life. And so I can be, obviously it doesn't sit real well to go out like this, but to know that you came in, you did what you said you were going to do. And when that's put kids in college, that's make kids better, that's hold kids accountable, that's see kids be successful on and off the field. The wins and losses, I tell our kids this all the time in our program, wins and losses take care of themselves. If you do the little things right, if you treat people right, if you do right by people, if you do the small things. And so the scoreboard takes care of itself. And so we were able to win too. Winning a state championship taught me one thing, is that stuff right there is fleeting. It's good on a resume. Yeah, it's good to hear people say it. But at the end of the day, it didn't change me as a person. But my relationships and knowing that I've made a difference with some of these kids, that's changed me. That's made me a better man. The championship didn't. It probably, if you let that stuff go to your head, it makes you a worse person. But the interaction with our kids and knowing that we've made a difference and some of these kids have a better opportunity because we were involved in their lives, then that's what's meaningful to me.
Well, when one door closes, another opens. I think our loss, Danville's loss, is going to be somebody's gain somewhere down the line. And I just want to say personally, I wish you, wherever you land, I wish you all the best and all the success in the world. And thank you for the difference you've made here in our community, Clay. I certainly appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate it. And, we're not, as of right now, we're not going anywhere. I mean, Danville's a special place to me, and so we'll see how it all shakes out. And we may or may not be moving. And if we don't, obviously, I'm still going to be involved in the youth in this community, more than likely in some form or fashion.
Clay, thanks for being with me today.
All right. Appreciate it. I appreciate having me.
But wait, there's more. You know what it's time for. What's up, Danville? So, what's up, Danville? What's been going on since I've been away? The Art Center of the Bluegrass invites you to their winter exhibition, The Art of Being Black, Conversation and Experience. The show came about in response to the protests for racial justice that took place this spring and summer across the country and here in Danville. The show is grounded in the belief that having conversations can bring people together and foster a better understanding of our lived experiences. Art plays an important role in expressing our experiences, and it sparks powerful conversations. In the show, artists from throughout Kentucky have shared their artistic interpretations in the hopes of encouraging community dialogue and self-reflection. It will run through March 31st. There are 3 interrelated exhibits, educational programs for children and adults, gallery talks with the artists, and conversations hosted by the Danville Boyle County African American Historical Society. There might even be some field trips. For more information, check out their website, artcenterky.org. By the way, it's Super Bowl... I don't know if I can say that. It's Big Game Sunday. If you're going to watch the big football game between the professional football players outside your home, may I suggest Harvey's downtown on 4th Street. They'll be serving up food and drink specials. And my understanding is there will be a hot wing eating contest at halftime. Full disclosure, no, I will not be participating in the wing eating contest at halftime myself, but good luck to those of you that will. Also, check out their website for to-go orders and curbside if you need something for your watch party or any other time. They do a great job with takeout. May I recommend the pulled pork grilled cheese? That's all your favorite flavors on one sandwich. All right. As always, I'd like to thank my guest, Coach Clay Clevenger, for joining me. It took some real courage to come on and talk about his situation with the emotions running so close to the surface. I really appreciate him talking to me, and I know there are a lot of folks that wanted to hear from him and get his side of the story. I'll get links up to the Art Center and Harvey's in my show notes. Do you want to get in touch with me either about the show or real estate? Do you have an item for What's Up Danville? I'll remind you the Logan Company is my real estate brokerage. I'm always happy to talk about real estate. And by the way, you have a special opportunity to be my neighbor here at the downtown ManAboutDanville office tower. The entire second floor is available. I don't want to turn this web podcast into a commercial for me, but I've got 1,500 square feet of office space upstairs. If you're interested, let me know. Here come the socials. You can find me on my website, ManAboutDanville. You can email me, manaboutdanville@gmail.com. Follow me on Instagram, ManAboutDanville, or the Twitter handle is ManDanville. You can find this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, and just about anywhere else you find your podcasts. If you have a moment, hit subscribe wherever you listen, and I really appreciate it if you take the time to give me a review or a rating. Those are always welcome. That's all I've got. Be well, have a good weekend, and thanks for listening.
That's it. We're out. Thanks so much for listening. We really appreciate it. Subscribe to Man About Danville wherever you access your favorite podcasts, and be sure to tell your friends about us. You've been listening to Man About Danville with Logan H. Gurman, brought to you by the Logan Company, a commercial and residential real estate brokerage for Danville and Central Kentucky. Know someone who would be a good guest? Want to be a guest yourself? Have an idea for the show? Get in touch with us. Find all our contact information on the web at ManAboutDanville.com. Thanks for joining us.